Today, the NTSB released preliminary findings of the Merrimack Valley gas explosions. It found during a pipe replacement, Columbia Gas took out an old iron gas pipeline.
And during that replacement process, the system overcompensated for a loss of pressure in the area, but it ran out of control, forcing dangerous and explosive levels into homes in the Merrimack Valley. And then we saw what happened. So many people displaced there. So what should victims be doing legally? And Boston attorney Phil Tracy joins us tonight. Phil,
yes.
It's overwhelming to think about what these people are up against. What's the first thing they should do?
Well, I think the first thing they should do is get their own attorney. I mean, I think an attorney who's focused on your problems, and they could range from anything. Now, for instance, they say that the heat or the gas will be back in place sometime in early November. How do you know they're going to make that deadline? Now you get deeper and deeper into the winter. Things can happen. Children can get sick. People can get pneumonia. Psychologically, some kids might be afraid to go to school, afraid to go to sleep at night. So there's so many different things.
They shouldn't sign anything right now.
Well, I wouldn't sign anything from the company. Now, the company is trying its best, and it's a big company, and their future is hanging in the balance. So they're trying to say, we'll give you a hot plate here or an electric heater here. But if they ask you to sign a release of any sort,
don't do that.
Don't do that. And that's like getting in a car accident and the insurance company says, we'll send you $12,000 and please sign this release.
Do not
Without a lawyer, some people will do that.
Next topic, Fall River Mayor Giselle Correa now charged in federal court today with defrauding investors to pay for what they call a lavish lifestyle. He's accused of stealing more than $200,000 from investors. He right now is refusing to step down as mayor. What's the legality at this point of the mayor staying in power, or is that purely a legislative process?
Well, he hasn't been convicted yet, so the famous proof beyond a reasonable doubt and not guilty until proven guilty, you know. So when the federal government comes after you, they are strong and they have many resources. And when they investigate, and if you saw their press conference, the U.S. attorney, the IRS agent, and the FBI agent, that means that they have put together probably a very solid case against this man. He doesn't have to step down. I suppose that there's a process in city government that would say if he was convicted, he'd have to leave at that point.
We'll see what happens there. And the state police scandal. This is very interesting. 8 state police officers are facing a mix of state and federal charges for working overtime, claiming that they worked more overtime shifts than they did, bilking taxpayers out of thousands of dollars. So 3 have already pleaded to federal charges. Dozens more are under investigation. None have faced any sentencing yet. We saw another trooper in trouble today. So what can people expect in terms of sentencing as they look at this?
Well, I think, you know, the public is disgusted with this. They think the cops have become robbers. They've stolen from the taxpayers. It's not good looking. It's ugly as can be. Surprisingly, the political side of it, Gonzalez tried to tag Baker with it, but I'm not sure, you know, this is something that he has to take on himself. On the other hand, Gonzalez is raising a good point. I mean, this is not right. And it's burgeoning. It's getting bigger and bigger. Now, today, there was an issue with the union. The union president has resigned a few days ago. So there's an issue about them using time that they weren't supposed to for union activities. So that's another part of it. Somebody else pled guilty today. In the federal system, when you plead guilty, about 90 to 120 days later, after a pre-sentence report is put together, that's when you get sentenced. I believe they'll be doing jail time.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh took his seat on the highest court of the land this week. He was accused, of course, as we all know, of sexual misconduct. He had a contentious hearing in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and now there are formal complaints about the answers that he gave on Capitol Hill. Some people have said that he was untruthful and that he did not have the demeanor that you would want from a judge. Chief Justice John Roberts has taken those misconduct complaints and he's referred them to the Chief Circuit Judge of the Denver-based 10th Circuit, basically saying, hands off, we don't feel we can do this objectively. What does this really mean? Will it turn into anything?
I'm not sure what it'll turn into, but I can tell that Justice Roberts has done the right thing to remove it from their own jurisdiction, because how could they do that? How could they be sitting in judgment of him or have somebody in the Washington, D.C. area? I think he's trying to get it out of Washington, put it in a neutral, hopefully independent look at it. Now, if it bears fruit, there could be problems down the road for Kavanaugh. On the other hand, you know, at least the public gets a breather from this. And I think the public is tired of the whole thing, the way it was handled from all different, both not taking a side one way or the other. I just don't think that this is the way it should play out on national TV. I mean, we've had issues like hearings that have gone sort of crazy before, like the what's the other justice?
Clarence
Thomas hearing. That was kind of crazy too, and I don't think it serves the whole purpose of having a dignified Supreme Court. On the other hand, let's have somebody take a look at these answers, and if they are wrong, then there's got to be a cost to pay by Kavanaugh.
We'll see what comes out of Colorado. Phil Tracy, thanks for coming in tonight. We appreciate it.
Always good to have